Boom.
And we should be going live, and we should also be, we are recording. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to WordCast number 50 this time. Unfortunately, you may notice that the title is incorrect. We are having issues. YouTube Live, the live page for channels is down right now. So if you go to a channel name /live, it is down right now. Let me make sure we're actually live while I continue saying this.
We are.
Okay, we should be, at least. I want to make sure we are. Yeah, it looks like we are. Okay. Although the internet is being kind of slow, but I don't think we're dropping any frames. We're dropping a lot of frames.
Oh.
What's going on? Oh no, it's staying at 600, so it's going back. Maybe it was just a blurb of dropped frames. What's happening? This is low FPS, but I think that's just my end. Our internet's going really slow right now. I'm not entirely sure why. But if I go to the WordTech page, we are live right now. But it's kind of... There, now it's smooth. Okay, I think we're live properly. Sorry, guys, we've been having a whole bunch of issues, so if you're watching right now, I apologize.
There are some more, but not a lot.
Yeah, it's going down consistently, so I think we're good to continue streaming at 7 megabit. So this is the link, I guess, to link to people then, because the /live's not working. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to WordCast. This is WordCast number 50. I'll be changing the title here in just a moment. We were having some issues, so I couldn't actually change it earlier. So weirdly enough, the live page for YouTube is down for individual channels. I don't know if we were live just a second ago when I said that. We should have been, but the live page, basically, if you go to like youtube.com/WordTech/review/live, it was down. Like there's nothing there, but the live streaming seems to be working just fine. So we're not entirely sure what was going on there, but I just wanted to let people know why we're so late. We were trying to diagnose that and see if we even should stream. Turns out it's working. We just, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, welcome everybody to WordCast number 50. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. This is going to be a little bit of a, not a shorter podcast in general, but just now that we're late, we're going to have to kind of rush through some things. But a lot of really interesting news. That was my bad. Put my phone away. All right. So anyway, everybody. Yeah. So, do you have anything to talk about at the beginning, or do you want me to start?
Let's just get started.
All right. So, a little bit of a rumor roundup kind of thing for NVIDIA Ampere /Turing. So, basically, NVIDIA Ampere has been the rumor. The rumors have been going around about what NVIDIA's next-gen architecture is going to be called for consumers, whether it was going to be Volta-based or Pascal-based, and whether it was going to be called Ampere or something else. So, multiple sources right now in the rumor mill are looking at it being announced in March at GTC and released in April for purchasing. Multiple places are saying that. Where the confusion comes into play is what the name is going to be. It's likely to be Ampere. I think that's a good name for it. I think that's what it's going to be. But other sources are pointing to it being called Turing, which is Turing. But that makes more sense as like an AI kind of name, because Turing is, let me see if I can get the article pulled up here. Turing is, it was a hypothetical machine built by Alan Turing, or designed by Alan Turing, that can simulate any computer algorithm. Basically, it's a fictional thing that doesn't exist, but it'd be an appropriate name for an AI card. Not really an appropriate name for a gaming card, but who knows? Maybe we're gonna call it that anyway. So we'll just have to see. So anyway, NVIDIA, we'll see what they do. I'm kind of excited. Now, people are thinking, and I'm included in this, that it's just going to be a Pascal refresh. I don't think that we're going to see anything new like Volta-based or anything like that. It's just going to be higher clock, maybe some more CUDA cores, but it's going to be Pascal-based because, there's no reason for them to release Volta because there's no competition in the market. Volta's probably still a long way off. HBM is still more expensive even after the inflation of the prices of GDDR5. GDDR6 is actually available now, so I think it's highly likely that we see Ampere being a gaming card based on Pascal. I think that's what it's going to end up being in the long run.
That's unfortunate.
It is kind of unfortunate because I was also hoping to see, something a little bit better. But
what I would like to see although I know they won't do this because they're generally a lot better than AMD is about mixed architecture launches.
Yeah,
is
right.
Ampere being the high end, and Turing being a Pascal refresh at the low end.
Right, which would be possible, but it's unlikely because, like you said, NVIDIA hasn't generally been one to do that.
Yeah,
like
unless they went all out weird and went like 2080 and 2070 and then 1160.
Which would just be really, really weird. I mean, they have done weird stuff, so, who
like
knows?
skipping 8th gen on desktop because they messed up.
They had kind of decent reasoning for that.
Oh, they had a great reason. It was just dumb.
It was, exactly.
The 8th gen on laptops was dumb, which made them skip 8th gen on
Yes,
desktop.
they should have just called it 7th gen on laptops. Yeah, they shouldn't have called
No,
it.
the problem was they used two different architectures.
Well,
on laptop. That was the problem with 8th gen, and that's why they didn't do that with...
they were technically the same architecture, if I remember correctly. You're saying 800 series was a different architecture from 700 series?
There were some 800 series cards that were different architecture on mobile.
Oh,
and
yes,
some that
yes.
were not.
Okay, yes.
I think it was the 60 that was the splitting off point, where there were some 60s, I believe, that were the same and some that were not.
Yes, I believe that's correct. Yes, that sounds right to me as well. Yeah. It's unfortunate in my mind that we're not going to see something Volta-based, but maybe we're still going to see 30% performance improvements on the high end or something. We'll have to see.
It was Kepler and Maxwell.
Okay, yeah, right. So I'm personally excited for the next architecture because I plan to, assuming SLI is still supported, pick up 2 of whatever they release in April when they're available. I plan to be ready to purchase it the day it comes out before the miners buy it up, if mining's still a thing then.
If it's a Pascal refresh, I fully expect SLI to still be there.
Yes, and that was one of my thoughts as well, is if it's a Pascal refresh, SLI would just make sense. Whereas Volta has NVLink, which is maybe just not ready yet.
Yeah.
For gaming GPUs. Now, maybe NVLink is going to become the SLI alternative. We just need to get game developers to actually focus on using the low-level APIs to support, well, the APIs themselves support it, but to have games support really simple GPU scaling.
Yeah.
Of, hey, how many GPUs do you have in your system? What brands? We don't care. We're just going to take your GPU power, we're going to dump it into a pool, basically, and use it. It's just not super easy to build games that way. But I think we will be looking at that someday, where 4 cards is viable and doesn't require some kind of special bridging, and is, actually usable.
Yeah.
So it would be really unique if you could have a system with, like, 7 cards in it, or something crazy like that, right?
Yeah.
That'd be a really interesting viewpoint there if people can get the scaling to work the way we want it to work ultimately. So I don't know, it's interesting. I'm excited for this whole thing, and I will probably be getting Ampere or Turing, but I'm also a little disappointed if it's not as good as we want it to be, But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So the next topic to talk about here is the new Ryzen APUs, which I am sure many of you are aware of. You know what I just noticed? Okay, no, the live email went out. The live email did go out. Okay, I thought it didn't. Okay, so AMD Ryzen APUs have been released in terms of the Ryzen 5 2400G and the Ryzen 3 2200G. APUs basically being it has a GPU on board. There's a little bit more to that in terms of how they share memory and stuff like that. They're not dedicated. The GPU does use DRAM, which can increase latency because it's using your system memory. So there's some downsides to that. So you do get actual better in-game performance by having higher speed memory. So now, with these, and I'll read off all the specs here soon, but with these APUs here, you have a really good reason for high-speed memory.
We have already gone over the specs previously on the podcast.
We did. That is correct. But I guess I wanted to more so go over benchmarks and other stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. So anyway, this is an even better reason to have high-speed memory, because not only do you have the Infinity Fabric between the CCXs on the Ryzen chips that use the Infinity Fabric, and so they are based on the RAM clock speeds. Now we also have
Do these
GPU.
actually do that though? From my understanding, these would just use one CCX, I believe. For the 4 cores.
I was pretty sure that it's that the way that I studied the architecture a lot.
Because doesn't a regular
the thing
Ryzen...
is, a single die uses 2 CCXs, so they can't punch out a die with only 1 CCX.
But how would they fit in the same size as 2 CCXs a GPU as well, the easiest way to do that would be to replace one with a...
No, not exactly. No, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be putting it on the side of it. So like I can look up a we can probably find something regarding how the actual architecture is laid out, but as far they're going to be separate things. It's going to look similar to the way Intel had their dies next to the Vega GPUs, because they're a separate thing. They aren't punched out of the same die. They are a separate die, but every single Ryzen CPU is using every single Ryzen die is a CCX. It's the Zeppelin die, is what it's technically called, and that has 2 CCXs per die. And so they punch out a die, there's 2 CCXs. So from my understanding, they disable 2 of the cores in each CCX, so it's ones that maybe didn't have quite as good yields. At least that's my understanding of it. I could be wrong, but...
according to PC World, it is a single unified CCX rather than a dual CCX design.
That's interesting, because then they would have probably the die would have been laid out, I would think, then. Let me see if I can find something a little bit more, okay, yeah, looks like it's just a single CCX-based unit, which is interesting. So they did do some more unique stuff. Interesting, because
that's always what I assumed they were going to do when they announced that it was the regular one was on 2 CCXs.
Plus, they don't have any 8-core editions that have anything on them. So yeah, I guess it makes sense. That just surprises me a little bit, because that's a pretty big redesign in some ways. Because that's really interesting. Because I've done multiple deep dives into the way that the Zeppelin dies are punched out. Their layout, how their PCI Express lanes are laid out. So that's kind of interesting there.
Because I remember reading the 4.0 configuration, so that's why I thought that.
Okay.
But yeah, even PC Per confirms it, that it's
I 100%
a
trust
4.0 configuration. This means the 4 cores are enabled on a CCX and utilized with these CPUs rather than going with a 2x2 design.
Okay, makes sense. Interesting. Okay. So anyway, I guess it still gives you a good benefit from having higher speed memory, though, because your GPU is going to rely on that memory. So
APUs have
still a big deal. APUs have always been that way, yeah. Whereas Intel integrated graphics have their own dedicated memory to use. They have their dedicated portion. It's not much, but they have it. So anyway, here's where things get a little bit weird, but kind of okay. So both of them are using thermal interface material, not solder, between the IHS and the die.
Yeah.
Now, that's what Intel has been criticized for doing for a long time, but where the criticism comes into play is the high end and the more enthusiast-like, basically the K series and up. So starting like right now would be like the 8600K, right?
You activated Siri on my iPad.
How? Okay, anyway. So, or like the 8700K, like those really should be soldered in my opinion. But on lower end parts, it's okay to use thermal interface material, or TIM as I'm going to call it, because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to manufacture.
Yeah.
It's cheaper
to
work with.
No one complains that Intel uses
TIM on an i3
or Pentium.
Yeah, or Pentiums. Like, nobody cares. And this is still considered a low-end part, despite it being 4 high-performance cores and a GPU. It's still low-end in terms of AMD Ryzen's whole lineup. And so I'm okay with them using TIM on this. I actually have no complaints there. I would rather, in this segment, save $10 and or $20 and use TIM instead of solder.
Yeah.
Now on anything like a 1700, 1700X, etc., those should all be soldered, which they are, because that $10 difference doesn't matter as much when you're willing to drop $360 or $500 on a CPU.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at spending $100 on a CPU, every dollar counts. So the 2200G is officially listed at $99, and the 2400G is officially listed at $169. So yeah, there's that. And then I can open up this link here. It's from PC Perspective. Oh, and a couple other notes. The overclocking has not been proven very good on these, stability-wise. Not even a temperature problem related to TIM. Just the overclocking in general has not been very good. And there's only 8 PCI Express 3.0 lanes ready to use for like a dedicated GPU, because some of it's used to communicate with Vega.
Yeah.
So that's also an important note, is each CCX only has 16 PCI Express lanes per CCX, right? And so having 16, you need to be able to communicate with the GPU and everything else, so you're going to use up all 16 there, whereas something desktop-based, you're looking at 32 technical PCI Express lanes. Some of them are used for various things. So anyway, dedicated GPU, you're going to be pretty much limited to using a single dedicated GPU. You're not going to be wanting to do SLI or Crossfire in here because you're going to get a significant bottleneck once you drop below 8 3.0 lanes. You start to really see that on the higher end cards.
Yeah.
So performance-wise, this is all from PC perspectives testing. Full credit goes to them. I'm just kind of reading off of it because we don't have this part yet, so we haven't been able to test it. Excuse me. So, it's looking pretty good. Now, it's not looking like it's super great for 1080p gaming, and I'll explain why. But here's like an example. Ashes of the Singularity escalation at 900p on the lowest settings, running in DirectX 12 mode. You're looking at the 2400G getting about 30 FPS, and the 2200G getting about 25. And to give you an idea of respective FPS from other GPUs, you're looking at about 32 from an RX 550 and 35 from a GTX 1030. Dirt Rally at 1080p on medium, you're looking at about 45 FPS for both the 2400G and 2200G, whereas the GT 1030 is up in the like 63 range, and the RX 550 is up in the 78 range. So I mean, it's by no means going to be something that you're going to want to like use as your primary gaming system. If you really care about gaming a lot and you're hardcore, I'd recommend going with something better, dedicated GPU of some sort. But where these really sit is the ultra budget gamer that wants to be able to build a PC and wants the advantages of PC, but wants to game and wants it for the price of a console. Now, you're not going to get quite as good as console performance in most cases. There's some where it'll beat it, but in most cases, you're not going to get quite as good as console performance, but you can get really close to the same price, and you have those other advantages that come along with owning a PC.
Yeah.
So for somebody that's looking for that wants a PC and doesn't want a console, but still wants to game as well, this is something that's for them. The other area that I think this is really fitting, and especially right now, is people that want to add a GPU later. Right now, you can't get a 1050 Ti for under like $300.
Yeah.
So, in that case, you might as well buy one of these Ryzen chips. You have a functioning system with a 2400G or a 2200G. I'd really recommend a 2400G. And you can play games with that. The majority of games will run on the lowest settings at 1080p at playable frame rates. Some of them you're going to have to go down to 900 or 720p, but most of them you won't. And then you can add a GPU later. And as a quad-core unit, these things actually perform incredibly well for gaming when it comes to being paired with a dedicated GPU. You've got a powerful quad-core system then that you can upgrade later, so it just makes sense. So I definitely can see... are we out of sync a little bit? Interesting. I don't
know when that was posted, so that's why I'm asking if it's...
Yeah. I don't know exactly how I can fix that because I have the delay set already.
Our percentage is still good, but we have dropped
more, but the percentage is a lot better. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure why that is happening. We just dropped a little bit more there, but it's still not bad. I'm not exactly sure why that's... If our audio is out of sync, I apologize. I'm not exactly sure why that's happening because I have the delay set the same. It's probably a YouTube issue or restream or something like that because everything seems good on our end here, but... Yeah, YouTube, we were having issues with it earlier too, so it wouldn't surprise me if it was YouTube's fault. So these new Ryzen chips, though, yeah, they're really solid. Not if you're looking for super high-performance stuff, but if you're a gamer. And in a lot of cases, these actually make sense over buying like a Ryzen 3 1200.
Same on Twitch.
Oh, is it? Okay, huh. Okay, well, I apologize. I don't know. There's not much I can do about that because the delay is set at a specific thing. Thank you for letting me know, though, Chris. Appreciate it. That's kind of weird. So, like, here's a good example. So, if I look up for the 2200G, right? So, the 2200G is currently $99 on Amazon, whereas the Ryzen 3 1200 is $104.99. So, it is literally more expensive for a CPU that is the same clock speeds, base clock, basically the same clock speeds, but also has a dedicated GPU in it and costs less money. Well, not a dedicated, integrated GPU, but right. So you're getting better overall value, and you're still getting full 4 cores. You're not seeing an advantage for going to these. So this kind of pushes the Ryzen 3 1200 like.
Unless you're using services that need more cache.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
But that's like that's a pretty niche thing. But that is true. So overall, I mean.
Or you need the PCI.
Or you need the more, or if you're wanting to do a multi-GPU setup or something like that for the cheap.
Or stream with a PCI card.
Yeah, exactly. Although you can usually, a lot of the streaming cards, if you're not using a 4K one, can stream through like PCI Express 2.0, like X4 just fine. So, Anyway, my recommendation for the most part, though, to people would be going with like a 2400G or a 2200G. Just get that for your system if you're not looking for anything more than a quad core, because you've got that there. It's useful for diagnosis in the future if you ever need to diagnose something because you have some kind of weird issue going on with your system and your GPU's not working. Your GPU dies, you're adding a GPU later, you need to connect more monitors. It's another GPU that actually functions that way. So even though you can connect, like up to 4 with NVIDIA, if you need more than 4, but you want an NVIDIA GPU, boom, now you have the ability to add more to your system. So I think it's overall a really good part, and I'm excited to maybe try and get one in for testing, but I don't know for sure if we can yet. I'm going to have to look into that. I would love to do like a really, really small portable build with this or something like that. That is like a tiny portable gaming rig or maybe an HTPC of sorts. Of course, my HTPC is already set up. Although I could maybe drop this in the HTPC and do some testing on it. I think I have video outputs on that. Yeah, I do. So I might grab one and just throw it in my AM4 system over here.
Yeah.
I'll think about that. Okay, so next thing, another piece of AMD news here actually is related to Threadripper and Epic. So it's some rumors surrounding Threadripper and Epic in specific. 7 nanometer is rumored to be coming pretty soon. Now, the rumor is out of China, so take it with a grain of salt. There's no real way to guarantee this, but multiple places are talking about it. And the idea is when AMD releases 7 nanometer based chips, they're going to be able to fit more cores per CCX. And in doing so, they could do up to 6 or maybe even 8 cores per CCX, which would be 12 to 16 cores per die, which in a 4-die arrangement gets you anywhere from 48 to 64 cores, all with double the lanes. And so I think if they go for this, if they shrink it down to 7 nanometers and they do this, right, it's going to be really interesting for us, not just for servers. Like servers, more cores, like 32 cores or 64 cores is just insane. And especially if they have 64 cores on both sides. You have a dual socket motherboard, 128 cores, 256 threads in a single dual socket board. It's pretty insane. But this also means that the low end from AMD won't see quad cores. We will see 6 cores and up. That says something. And that's the direction we should have been going for a very long time. I've talked about this in previous podcasts before Ryzen even existed, and other videos as well as just amongst my friends about how we should have realistically more cores than we do right now, or than we did at the time. Yeah. Right? And now we're seeing that where the mainstream desktops are starting to have 6 to 8 cores. The high-end desktops are starting to have 10-ish usually to 18 now. And maybe next time we're going to see up to like 32 cores from Threadripper, because that would be possible if they double the CCX count. Yeah. So pretty impressive stuff. Nothing really more to talk about that there other than it's kind of insane. So, do you have anything to touch on that?
No, not really. I'm excited, but
yeah,
I
think it would be really cool to see nothing but 6 cores everywhere. I think that would be really cool.
Still less cores than my cell phone.
Right, But your phone can only use 4 at a time.
Okay, but they have octa-core phones.
Yes, but they can only use 4 at a time.
No, they have actual octa-core
okay,
phones.
that's true.
Just
okay,
not,
yeah.
Just not Qualcomm.
Just not Qualcomm. Yes, that's
MediaTek.
Right. Yes, MediaTek. That's right. That's right. They do.
And they can use all 8 at a time, just not for a single application.
Right. Yes, and that's true too. That's true too. Okay. So Colorful did something interesting, guys, and I'm not making this up. So Colorful copied EVGA's About Us page. Now you may be thinking, what about this story? Is there anything? No. They literally copy and pasted the About Us page from EVGA's site onto their About Us page and replaced the EVGA's name with Colorful. No, you heard me right. That's all they did. All other data pointed towards EVGA. They listed their headquarters as Colorful's headquarters, and that was where EVGA's... They listed... Colorful listed their headquarters as EVGA's headquarters. Meaning, they literally just took the word EVGA and replaced it with Colorful.
Yeah, they literally copy-pasted and then used a find and replace.
Yes. How in the world did anybody think that was okay, think that was a good idea? Nobody caught it. Like, they have people that their job is to make sure this doesn't happen.
I'm wondering if maybe they were using it as a placeholder.
And then uploaded it by mistake?
Yeah.
Even so, though, they shouldn't just copy it. That's not, like, they shouldn't just copy it even if they're going to change it drastically.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that's, like, that's not cool. They have people that look into this.
But no, I mean like a placeholder, like they were working on a design for their site or their About Us.
Oh, yeah.
And they copied something, threw in colorful.
And then just forgot.
Yeah.
But it's hard to forget that, but maybe. Maybe they didn't think nobody would notice. Maybe it was a mistake. There could be a genuine mistake. But the fact is, they copy and pasted the About Us page from EVGA. I don't understand.
Or some low-level intern copy-pasted it to sound good, and nobody read all the way through to the bottom. They
to
only
realize
read the first
that it was
sentences.
the wrong area. Yeah, because somebody had to have caught that. I mean, anybody in the organization should know. In the company, anybody no matter what location you're at, should know.
Also, I'm pretty sure Colorful doesn't have a 90-day step-up program, and they wouldn't call it a step-up program.
Exactly.
It's like an EVGA staple thing.
Exactly. Yes, it was just a copy-paste. Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah.
It blew my mind when I was reading about this. I was like, what? No, there's no way. There's got to be more to this. No, there's not. They copy-pasted. It's pretty hilarious if you ask me. Okay, so this next one we both have fun stuff to talk about, right? So, the Gen Z Interconnect specs have been published. This is all coming from Tech. I have an AnandTech article here that's linked to it. So, bless you. Not really, but I mean. Okay, so you read into this some too, right?
A little bit.
Okay, so it's designed to be super fast and low latency, and it is an interconnect between multiple devices. It could eventually, probably won't, but could replace things like PCI Express and stuff, although it does have a LAN aspect to it where it can actually go over a partial Ethernet, partial PCI Express bus so that they can actually do like interconnects externally out of the machine that are really,
so cool.
really low latency. Yeah, it's really impressive stuff. So now this one primarily talks about processor and memory connections, allowing for different types of media to be used for, for RAM. So as an example, like non-volatile memory rather than just DRAM, like 3D XPoint, could be used going over this interconnect for RAM, which would be really interesting. Now, right now, we're looking at 56 gigabits per second per lane, which translates to, let's see. I'm finding out. 7 gigabytes per second per lane, which is... Quick maths, yes, which is pretty intensive. So PCI Express 3.0 is actually more than that, though. PCI Express 3.0, we're looking at... 2 gigabyte? No, no. Per lane, it's still faster than PCI Express 4.0 even. Yeah, because really, that's right. It's a gigabyte per second per lane on 3.0. This is 7 gigabytes.
Isn't that wait, go back? That's faster than 5.
That's still faster than PCI Express 5 spec, which is not even in anything yet.
Yeah.
So, so it's really, really, really fast stuff here, guys. It's pretty insane. Now, there's lots of large companies on board. Notably, Intel and NVIDIA are not.
Intel, I know, is working on a competitor.
Right.
And I think NVIDIA is as well.
NVLink in some ways is, in some ways isn't, versus this. Like,
yeah,
some things about NVLink are, related to this. But other than that, the large companies,
Intel
like a
has
bunch of them.
Path.
Okay. A lot of them are on board, such as AMD, IBM, ARM, VMware, etc. Just a huge list of really big companies that care about this. Let's see, a few other ones like Molex, Foxconn, Broadcom, Red Hat, Lenovo, HP, like all these big companies are on board with this, and it's exciting to see something that is new, innovative for interconnect, stuff that a lot of people don't think about or talk about, but matters so much for the future of computing, way more in a lot of ways than things like CPUs do. This is a huge thing. So at the Supercomputer 17 show, they showed off 4 servers sharing 2 pools of memory through a Gen Z switch. We're talking like a switch. And they showed this off. I don't know exactly what it looked like. So let's find out if somebody has pictures. I'm trying to see. A lot of companies on board. This is just an incredible thing. Videos on their YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm not seeing any actual images of it, unfortunately. I was wondering exactly what their switch looked like externally. But Basically, what it looks like is we're going to be seeing the ability to have shared memory pools, maybe shared GPU resources and stuff like that are over a more network-like system at extremely low latencies, not that much more versus like latency going directly through the PCI Express bus on a motherboard. Really impressive stuff. I'm very, very excited for this myself, just to see what kind of innovations could come out of this. Now, don't expect to see anything soon, but hey, it's pretty cool, right? Okay. So, Akitio, I think is how it's pronounced, released the Thunder 3 10G. Did you read into this at all?
I did not.
Okay. So, do you remember a while back when I was talking to you about when I was using my laptop as my main editing rig and I was going to build the FreeNAS and I needed 10 gigabit link on here? But in order to do that, I needed it to go through Thunderbolt, obviously. And in order to get a 10 gigabit Ethernet card for Thunderbolt is a lot of money and or impossible to find.
Yeah.
Well, Akitio finally released one that is under $300. It's $299. And it is through Thunderbolt 3. It's 10 gigabit, a single 10 gigabit port, not multiple or anything like that. It's pretty large. I mean, we're talking like yay big, you know. I mean, it's like the size of a phone, but thicker.
Why couldn't they wait a few months and release it without having to pay Intel a fee?
I have no idea. They've probably been working on it for a while. Akitio designs a lot of stuff like this, so maybe it's been in the works for over a year, and that could be why they thought it wasn't going to take as long as it did or something. I don't know.
Hold it for a few months, though.
Well, they might have. They probably have to pay the royalties when they file for the patents for it and stuff like that.
But you also pay royalties on the sale.
On the sale, yeah, there is a percentage from each sale, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure why they wouldn't go for that.
Probably because that way they can make more profit and sell it at the same price later. Boom, money.
Yeah, maybe so. And so it's compatible with all subcategories, obviously. So 5 gigabit, 2.5 gigabit, and 100 megabit.
Do they have a 1.2 gigabit?
No, they don't have a 1.2 gigabit, unfortunately.
I needed that exactly.
Exactly that, right?
Any faster and it blows up my system, any slower and it's not worth it.
Yeah, I can agree with that, yeah.
Gotta
Overclocking your Ethernet cards, right? No, that should be a thing now.
Do it.
So basically, it's really cool to be able to see 10 gigabit plugged into a laptop, especially people that I don't think it's really that useful for ultra portables for the most part. In some ways, it could be if you have a server that's SSD based that you edit from, and your machine, you want to edit from a really portable machine, you can link up that way.
MacBooks.
Yes, this is going to be useful for Macs in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
For Final Cut, yeah. But it's also, in my opinion, really useful for people that use desktop replacements as their main systems, as I did for, what was it? It was like 8 or 9 months with this machine here was my desktop replacement. It was over there plugged into all my stuff as a desktop replacement. For you. I know, right? The record without having a desktop, except that, this is a 6700K.
I was going to say
1070.
just for using the same computer.
It's always been the same one. Just because you change a part doesn't mean it's not the same computer.
Okay, you use the same configuration.
Okay, good point. Well, I did upgrade it. I took this apart and threw stuff at it. I was going to put another GPU in it.
Throwing stuff at something.
I was going to put another GPU in it, okay? And then I never did. And I still want to, and I'm not going to because it wouldn't be worth it because I don't even game on the thing anymore. But anyway, I mean, it's cool. It's not dumb. It just wouldn't be worth it.
It's dumb when you take into account the cost.
Yeah, like $1,000 for a 1070. Yeah,
I mean that's not normal.
Well, right. Well, that's including. Keep in mind that's including the extra big heat sink that's required, which is a very expensive piece of copper, as well as including the power cable, and including. You can't give me heat pipes though.
I can get you regular pipes.
That would work great.
Copper pipes.
Copper pipes, just copper pipes. Put water in them, seal them up, weld them shut. Right?
Because at my work, we've been replacing the copper lines for the toilets with flex line.
So
I can get you copper.
You can get me copper.
Pipes.
Okay. That's awesome.
Make your own computer. Make your own heat pipes.
Right. Anyway, for $1,000, yeah. Now here's the thing that was expensive was the cost of just the 1070, the MXM configuration for this machine, $750. So everything else didn't really count because, like, the extra power supply, like, if you were running on a 300-watt power supply and you were going to add a GPU in a system, you'd have to buy a new power supply. Yeah. Or in a desktop, you do have to pay for, better cooling, so you're going to pay a premium on the coolers that you get. In this case, it was power supply in the cooler, but then it was $750 for the normally $400 1070.
However, normally on a desktop, you have the option when you're buying it of the higher power supply.
Yes, and that is true. That is true. Although I could have also got this with the higher power supply if I wanted to.
Don't you just mean a second cable?
Technically, it's just a second power supply, yeah.
Yeah. So he's literally going like Scrapyard Wars just to run a dedicated GPU in the system.
Right, exactly. No, it is shared. It combines the power of both the power bricks into one unit and then plugs into one port on the laptop. And then the laptop pulls from it.
Didn't Linus do that at some point?
I mean, they did that, well, I don't know. I don't think they did it. Well, they did that with this machine when they reviewed it.
And with the curved screen. Well, the curved screen one is already like that. It's actually, like, pre-sold like that.
Yeah, correct. Which this one is, too, if you get the multi-GPU configuration. And that's part of the cost if you buy it. Now, when you buy it with just a single 1070, and I think a single 1080, it just comes with the one power brick, right? And then you can add the second one if you want to by buying the adapter and the power brick separately.
Yeah.
But in order to get them bundled together, you have to do the dual GPU configurations, blah, blah, blah. I'm really sad because I financed this thing. I could have financed it with, like, dual 1080s and a G-Sync display, and instead I didn't, and it didn't make sense because it would have been an extra, like, $30. Well, it would have been, like, an extra, like, $30 a month for a year. Like, it wouldn't have ended up being that much. So
yeah, but you're still paying more for the computer than you should.
That I wouldn't use. Yeah, that's the thing. I would have used it at the time.
Well,
but now
and more for the computer than the
oh
cost of the computer.
yes, exactly. And now it's like a 1070 is so powerful. Like anytime if I need more than a 1070 and I'm not at home, I don't know what's wrong with me. You know. So anyway, so they released this. This would have been really useful for me when I was using this as my main workstation. Though that was the main point I was getting at. There is I could have used one of my two Thunderbolt 3 ports to connect to 10 gigabit. And you couldn't really find them for under like $700 for a while. So it's nice to see that. So this is just a little bit of interesting hacking news, security-based news. Exactly. So I don't know if you guys know what a Faraday cage is.
It's a microwave.
As well as what air gapping is. I mean, there's one in a microwave.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, so a Faraday cage is designed to block electrical interference. Basically, it keeps everything in. It's the reason that microwaves do not leave the microwave and fry you, is because the microwave is a Faraday cage around it. So that's what they're designed to do, and they are sometimes using computers to keep anything from leaving the computer, right? And then there's something called air gapping, which is basically this system has no connection to the outside world whatsoever. It is in a box isolated so you can't get to it. And in theory, people thought, oh, well, that's foolproof now. There's no way anybody can get through it. They can't get any wireless signal in or out. And they can't get any access to it through wired or physically, assuming it's locked down correctly, right? No, attackers figured out a way to get data off of a Faraday caged air-gapped computer.
Assuming they can get malware on it.
Yes, assuming they can get malware on it in the
one-time
first
access,
place.
presumably.
Yes, presumably. Now, there might be a way that they could inject that, but I don't know. Yeah. I don't think that's going to be... Ugh.
I think the most likely scenario for something like this would either be like spy movie level stuff where like someone sneaks in, gets the malware in,
right,
or like a bad actor within a company who who has like a justifiable one-time reason to get in there, but not long enough
to apply
take the info
updates or something, because you still need to run certain updates for stability. Maybe not security because you think it's secure, but stability updates.
But if you can get a reason to access that computer just long enough to install the malware, and then you get out, and then you can copy the info you need later.
Exactly, and hackers could trick somebody that has access, and you get access to their computer, and they have a flash drive that they're using on their computer to transfer the updates. Now, in most environments, a computer that is Faraday caged and air gapped probably has the best practice security protocols around it, where it's not like, oh, I'm gonna go use my flash drive from my keys on my workstation to get the new BIOS firmware to go update this Faraday caged computer. Like, if it's that important, there's gonna be very, very, very serious security around that. But it's still amazing that they did this. So these vulnerabilities are called Magneto and Houdini, and there isn't really a way to avoid this other than actually physically sealing off the computer in a magnetic resistance chamber, basically.
Or a larger Faraday cage, because these don't have that much range.
Well, the second one does have decent range. It has to be
you could still make like if it has like 5 feet of range or 5 feet of separation on each side, I think you'd be
Uh-huh.
good.
Well, yeah. Well, you can steal from more than that with one of them. It's one
The
of them.
longest is 5 feet, I think.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, okay, yeah, no, you're right. 150
So-
centimeters.
So you would have to do like a 6 foot in all directions Faraday cage.
and then you would be good, assuming that. Yeah, exactly.
Or it's easier to just use a magnet-proof Faraday.
Or just put the Faraday cage around it and then lock a building bigger than that around it, and you're good to go.
Put a Faraday cage. Just keep stacking Faraday cages
On top of each other, right? Good idea. So anyway, Magneto and Houdini. So Magneto is close range. It can be done by an Android phone, like really close range. We're talking like close range. And then, sorry. Yeah, exactly like that. Sorry if I just ear raped you guys, my bad. And then Houdini is slightly longer range, but requires a dedicated magnetic sensor. Houdini can be up to 150 centimeters. Houdini is also the fastest of them at, and I'll explain how they do this in just a second, is also the fastest of them at 40 bits per second, versus Magneto can be between 0.2 and 5 bits per second if you're using the CPU method. What's up?
I was going to say just shy of 5
Just
feet.
shy of 5 feet, okay. Whereas if you're using a hard disk drive to get this data, it's 0.06 to 2 centimeters. Or, bits per second. Up to 12 centimeters away for both versions of Magneto there. So basically the way that this works is as a CPU is running with various power fluctuations that the CPU is required to change clock speeds and the like, and the same thing can be said about a hard drive, it creates a slight magnetic field interruption. Not like an interruption, but a fluctuation. And that can be measured using I think it's a magnometer, is what it's, how it's pronounced and what it's called, I think. Basically, attackers, if close enough, can steal very small amounts of data that way by knowing the patterns of the computer. And then, well, what they're doing is they have the malware on the system basically transmit that data by taking over the CPU, which is easy to do, and causing fluctuations in power that match up with that data. So basically, if you've got a lot of time, you don't need to steal much data, and you have physical access at some point to the machine,
Or if
you
you're
can
just
pull the
going
data
after
off it wirelessly.
Text wouldn't take that much time to pull off.
Exactly. So as long, assuming there's not very much data, but you have to have at least at some point physical access to the machine to install malware or remote access if that machine was ever connected to the internet. Still really interesting that we figured out, like, this seems like, okay, this is the limit of what they can do, right? But
we'll see.
So this was an interesting little story that I wanted to throw in here. Russian nuclear scientists mining Bitcoin on Russia's most powerful supercomputer.
I mean, I would.
Or at least attempted to. They didn't do it.
How much does it cost to rent supercomputer access?
I mean, Amazon Web Services. You can rent that and mine with that. There are people that do that. There are people that do that. I'm not kidding. It's pretty unfortunate and sad, but there are people that will rent servers from Amazon Web Services and mine. But you're not allowed to have cryptocurrency anyway.
I still can't. I can still be curious about
I
this.
know, I'm kidding. Anyway, this was just interesting. So basically, employees from Federal Nuclear Center attempted to mine Bitcoin, which is on Russia's most powerful supercomputer in a top-secret base that wasn't even supposed to be online at all. This computer is used for like nuclear research and stuff like that, as far as I understand. Let's see here. I'm not sure what it's actually it's actually used for. It's top secret, so we probably don't know. But anyway, basically, it's kind of hilarious that we've crossed a moment when Bitcoin mining is more valuable than working in a top secret base on the most powerful computer in a country. Like, if you need to mine Bitcoin while doing that, like, that tells you something about the value of Bitcoin, you know? So I just found this funny. That money, right?
So, do you think, assuming this is a half decent core, you could make 4 cents per hour on a core for crypto mining?
4 cents per hour on a core?
Yes, because that's the cost. So essentially, the 30th fastest supercomputer, which has 30,472 cores, is $1,279 an hour to rent, which comes out to about 4 cents per core per hour.
Okay, yeah, you could probably,
especially if you're not
per
paying
core,
electricity.
you could probably make like 10 to 30 cents depending on market values, depending on clock speeds.
Yeah.
Using a kryptonite algorithm. So,
I might have to take a break for a week.
I mean, for a week? What's the point in that?
Dude, mine for a week straight
Just-
on a supercomputer, and then quit my job.
I think it's not good. That wouldn't be worth it.
But if I do this every week in between WordCasts,
That is not how not owning Bitcoin works. That's not how not owning crypto works.
I know.
At this organization. You
but
are
I can
not
make
just.
jokes.
Did I ever give you permission to make jokes?
Yeah.
Actually, I probably have at some point, so I can't really say that.
Okay.
Okay, so VLC got an update, a big update, one actually worth talking about this time. So,
Is it out?
Yes,
Okay,
it's
cool.
actually out, and it's very, very cool. So, anyway, VLC, and many of you probably use them as a media player. What's it stand for? Yeah, Video LAN Organization. So, Video LAN Center, I believe is what it stands for.
Or as a DVD player?
Anyway, a lot of people use it for media playback, Blu-ray playback, DVD playback, any kind of playback, whether it's video, audio, etc. A lot of people use it for transcoding stuff.
Just not 4K video playback. Or 4K Blu-ray playback, I should say.
Yeah,
They
correct.
can do that.
Although, now they have some updates that help with stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's very limited.
Yeah, so basically, if you go to their page, VideoLAN, they have a update about it here. Let's see, though. It does support, I'm pretty sure, yeah, so it can play Blu-ray Java menu. So it's able to play BDJ, yeah, but doesn't mean it can play Blu-ray straight.
Yeah, because 4K Blu-rays have the
It just
problem.
doesn't
of
have the decoder.
A lot of, yeah.
Yeah, you have to have the decoding software, and that is expensive and from untrustworthy sources. So anyway, though, it is an update we're talking about. So mainly the key features here, they added 10-bit HDR support. So that's pretty cool. 10-bit and HDR, I should say. 10-bit color and HDR. So we're able to watch HDR content on a player on PC, a free video player. That's pretty cool. Hardware decoding for better performance in general. 360-degree video as well as 3D audio. I don't think they said if the 3D audio was through, let's see, DTSX? I'm not sure if it's through DTS or something else. Yeah, I don't know if it doesn't appear to be Atmos or DTS. It looks
It's
like
probably something specific to.
Okay, and
when it's-
Ambisonics is a full sphere surround sound technique. So that's the name of the technique. I don't know what service it's using. It probably is just able to, it's able to play back from either, I'm guessing.
Well, I was gonna say most likely it's something tied to the 360 video.
Although, well,
something
3D
that-
audio maps objects in 3D space.
I know.
Is how it works. And
But I'm thinking more something that's tied along with, like, if you're popping on a VR headset, where 3D audio is even more important.
maybe so. Although I'd also imagine that means it supports Dolby Atmos and DTSX surround sound. I would imagine it
I feel like they would have
both of those.
specified that.
I feel like they would have too, and I didn't see anything about that. I saw some stuff related to DTS in there, but not DTSX in specific. So I don't know. That's just HDMI pass through. So I don't know. But anyway, so it's also here's the really big one. This is actually really cool. So it can stream to Chromecast devices now, which is a huge deal. But it does actually get better than that. So it can also do that in non-natively supported formats on Chromecast. Meaning if you have something, I don't know what formats Chromecast supports, but let's just say .mov isn't supported on it, okay? And you have a .mov QuickTime file on VLC, right? Then you can have VLC transcode that live and stream it to the Chromecast.
I guarantee Chromecast don't support MKV. That's a common torrent file
MKV,
type.
yeah,
So.
okay, yeah. So MKV,
For all you
let's
torrenters
say-
out there,
yeah, right. So right.
MKVHD.
Yeah, yay! But anyway, yeah, so this is able to do the transcodes on the fly, which is pretty cool. In order to do that previously, you'd have to use some weird service, or not weird, but a service that maybe isn't quite necessary for that, something like Plex, or I think Kodi can do that, I think, but something like Plex could do that as well. Now VLC can do that. So, I mean, this thing has become more robust for doing transcoding and the like. I've actually used it for transcoding before when I was having issues with Media Encoder. And it has network browsing built in now. So you can browse network drives rather than just mapped network drives, also browse locations on your network for data. So that's super cool and super awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for it. You can get the newest download right away. It's VLC 3.0. Overall, I think it's an impressive thing, and I hope they continue the innovation for a free service like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one's a really, really cool one. I want to know your thoughts on this as well. So 8K cameras from Red, right? The 8K helium sensor, very expensive. They are, and this is confirmed, by the way, once I get to it. Very expensive, very good sensors, but not really viable for consumers, even semi-professionals. You've got to be pretty huge in the semi-professional to the point that you're basically a professional market in order to actually afford one of these properly. Well, Foxconn is planning to make cheaper 8K sensors for Red, cheaper 8K cameras. So they're estimating a third of the current prices, so probably around like $8,000 to $10,000 for the body of the camera, right? Which is really cheap when you're talking bodies up to close to $50,000. I mean, that's a pretty significant drop, right? And then adding lenses and stuff, you could potentially have a really nice camera rig on a tripod, everything you will need to record for like, you know, 20 grand, maybe 25 grand.
And they're lighter and
Yes,
smaller. They
a
weigh
lot lighter,
less,
a lot
just
smaller.
over a pound, which is less than most DSLRs.
Yes, they're very lightweight. I'm excited for this. I think this is a really cool thing to see,
Yeah.
and I hope that this, you know, becomes viable for consumers at some point, and also helps shoot the prices of 4K cameras down. Now, of course, 8K, you can't really play that back on anything right now, so it's still kind of too far in the future, but that's okay because monitors and televisions tend to take longer to catch up than camera sensors, and that's kind of the orientation I want it in, because you still can get a benefit from playing back 8K footage on, say, a 4K display versus the same 4K footage on a 4K display. So this is really exciting, and I hope that it really does become a thing, but it sounds like it is. It's official that they are working on it. So
yeah, I mean, if we could see the Red Raven, the full kit for $5,000, that'd be really cool.
yeah,
That's the 4.5K
yeah, 5 or
sensor.
6 grand exactly. Yeah, that'd be amazing. And I don't know if they're going to be working on anything other than 8K sensors, but they might be.
Yeah.
So something like the 4.5K there would be useful. I would just love to see cheaper, super high-end cameras like that. Because if I could get something like that, a rig like that set up for like $8,000, say, including everything necessary, right? For recording SSDs and stuff like that for recording, like that would be a lovely upgrade at some point once this channel's big enough, right? So that, like, this is exciting. Now, no, Foxconn is not leaving Apple or anything like that, of course. There were some people that suspected that. Apple will still be their main thing. This is kind of just a niche area that they're going into, but could grow because they're making this niche area cheaper, which is what tends to happen. So Apple will still be their main thing. They'll still be selling a lot of products and making a lot of products for Apple in specific, but they see that there's money in this direction. So pretty cool, pretty interesting. I don't know. Are you going to buy an 8K camera?
Absolutely. At some point.
There you go. Good person.
Although, realistically, a phone will probably get it before most people can afford it.
Afford a camera. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That is true. All right. So, next topic. Metro Exodus. So, I don't know if you've played through Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light.
Nope.
I've played through the
They're great
majority of
games, but I haven't finished
2033. Okay. I've played through the majority of 2033, and I need to play through Last Light still, and I have the Redux versions of both. Amazing games, beautiful, really fun, really easy to play, like easy in terms of the coordination and everything. They're just really, 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 really solid. I love them. Well, Metro Exodus is coming out this year. It's a new game, and it's going to be the biggest, literally biggest Metro game ever.
No way. You
yes.
mean games making larger maps as they go on?
Yeah, oftentimes they do. Mm-hmm.
Is Skyrim the biggest Elder Scrolls before ESO?
You know, it is.
Whoa.
And you know, before that, I think it was Oblivion.
Uh-huh. Is Witcher 3 the biggest Witcher?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Damn.
That surprises me.
If you guys can't tell, I hate when companies do that. When they advertise their thing as like the best new thing or the biggest new thing.
This is actually for good reason, though. So it's not just a matter of saying that it's the biggest, which is something, I mean, they just talked about it. They weren't really showing it off. It was more like press got a hold of it, right? But, I mean, I do like bigger maps. Like, bigger maps in a lot of ways for certain games are cool. Right, but it's just using it as an ad spot, it's like, okay. Now,
That's
of course, this is actually a more of a big deal. So first off, it's well over the size of all of 2033 and Last Light combined in terms of map space, right? But this is the big thing. It's more open world like. Playing through 2033 and Last Light, it's very linear. Not quite as linear as some of the Crysis games, like Crysis 2 was really linear. But, or no, maybe it was Crysis 1 that was. I can't remember. Anyway, it's a very linear where there's not a lot of backtracking and exploration. It's just kind of you go here and do this, right? Which takes a little less work on the developer's part, but isn't maybe quite as fun and immersive in-game. And also doesn't allow there to be quite as much gameplay time overall, which is ultimately you want is people playing your game for long periods of time. So... more open world. Now, most areas will be looking at 2 square kilometers for the big areas, like in-game square kilometers. That does not mean that the entire area is explorable at the same time. It means that map, though, is. Which, if you look, let's see, 2 square kilometers versus the roughly like 200 or 100 meters in the previous games. So, I mean, we're talking an increase of anywhere from 5 to 10 times in size. And the more open world aspect is pretty cool. So when this comes out, I need to play the other ones so that I can play this when it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
You should probably play the other ones too.
Maybe.
We should. You own them, right?
Huh?
You own them, yeah?
Probably.
Okay. Okay, SpaceX.
SpaceX. So, they have a launch currently scheduled for the 17th. While there's some other stuff on it, I don't really care about that other stuff right now because the most important thing is they're finally launching their test satellites for their satellite internet service.
Yeah.
Booyah.
Very exciting. Hopefully it's really good when they do the tests on it. Hopefully it is high bandwidth, low latency, viable, and isn't interrupted by weather too much.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming that's part of the test is finding the best spots for
where it needs to be, right?
Yeah.
Which does make me wonder if they're launching these satellites. Are these satellites going to have any kind of control on them of being able to change their orbit level?
I doubt it, but they might launch them to different orbits.
And like estimated,
yeah.
Here's a few good places.
Yeah,
Let's see what really.
We don't really know all the details about how they're going to launch them, but we know they're launching 2 test ones. This is still years away from product, like consumer launch.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is a very, very important first step.
It is. It's a huge deal, and it's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly exciting. I hope it ends up being viable and something that we can get really solid internet anywhere in the world. And if it's built proper, this technology could replace everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's fast enough and low latency enough, you could use it for your in-home internet for work, and then you could also use your phone on it.
Yeah.
Which would be really exciting and kind of incredible.
Yeah. They probably SpaceX won't really talk much about this part of the launch because when they do launches, they focus on the customer.
Stream's dead. I just got a text. It's offline. Did the internet just go down?
Right when it gets to the stuff I wanted to talk about.
Of course, I think the internet just went down.
It hates me.
No, Comcast heard you talking about a competitor.
Yeah, that's probably it. They probably have algorithms.
Actually, wouldn't surprise me at all if they actually did. Yeah, I'm not getting any ping. Oh, reconnecting. Is it actually reconnecting? Yeah, okay, we're actually reconnecting. And we're still not streaming at all. Reconnection successful. Boom! Okay, we are back, guys. Sorry about that. We've been having weird issues with the internet all day, as well as weird issues with YouTube. And, thanks again, Comcast Business Class, for being more reliable and quicker service and better uptime. Literally not any better. Literally not any better.
Speaking of crappy Comcast.
And then they advertise this crap. They're like, oh, it's a dedicated line. Oh, what you mean is I'm not sharing bandwidth with other people. It's not like you ran new lines. Okay, disconnected again.
It's literally just hearing us rant about Comcast and kicking us off.
I almost wonder. I'm going to have to post the recorded version of this. I'm going to have to delete the one that YouTube saved, and post a recorded version so they can all hear this in the middle, because this is still going. Oh man, I don't know if it's gonna come back.
Well, it's 6 degrees outside.
Celsius. I don't know if it's gonna come back. Let me see if I can get in touch with my contact and see. Yeah, we're still disconnected right now. I mean, either you can continue to talk about it, or we can wait another minute.
We'll wait another minute.
And then you can talk about it anyway and just post it live.
Yeah.
Or post it afterwards. Not post it live. What? Oh, wait. Reconnection successful. Reconnection successful. Okay, guys. We are back, hopefully for good this time. Oh, wait. We are getting better uploads this time. Better upload speeds, too.
Nice.
So I wonder if maybe they're doing some maintenance. But still, Comcast, better reliability, blah, blah, all that crap. So anyway, speaking of horrible ISPs that suck and overcharge and have bad reliability. Wait, is their algorithm kicking us off again? In case you didn't know, in the middle there, we had a little theory that maybe Comcast listens for, bad-mouthing them and just kicks you off the internet for a second when you bad-mouth them.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, SpaceX. Yeah.
So, yeah, just in case it kicked us when I started talking about this, SpaceX is doing a satellite launch on the 17th. They have a customer for the launch. However, that's not what we're really all that interested in.
Yeah.
We are interested in the satellites they are launching to test their satellite internet service. Now, long-term goal for this satellite internet service is a global internet service at a decent price with gigabit speeds and low enough latency to game on.
Now the question becomes, gigabit speeds, is that, but, okay, so to achieve that from such a long distance, I wonder,
but it's
okay, so it's
LEO, it's not like an,
is it light based then?
Huh?
It's not light based, is it?
I don't know, but LEO meaning, low Earth orbit.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
it's not as
right.
far.
It's not like insane, but it's still a lot higher than a tower, a cell tower. Now, so it's gonna have to be low frequency, in order to go that distance, which means inherently it should go through buildings and walls really well. I wonder what frequency they're running at.
I don't think it's actually gonna go through buildings and walls. I think the plan is for it to beam to a box of some kind, or like a satellite dish outside.
Well, I wonder if maybe they're going to have it set up, or maybe an intermediate is more like a cell tower-based system, where this is the long-range link, and it links up with the cell towers that act as repeaters.
That would not allow for the latency that Musk wants. Elon Musk said that internet would not be viable unless you could play a first-person shooter on it.
Right, I remember him saying that in specific. But you could do really low latency repeating type technology. If you look at a mesh Wi-Fi network, like
I don't think they want to build out that much infrastructure.
Well, if they work with existing ISPs like T-Mobile and stuff to use theirs and modify their towers,
but they don't want to work with other companies.
Right,
they've said that they want to do this on their own.
They
want this to be their product.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because otherwise, they would just launch satellites and rent out the satellites
right away.
Not have to deal with customers.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. I'm excited for it. Whatever it ends up being, it's gonna be cool.
Yeah. I would love proper global gigabit satellite internet with low latencies, because personally, I would love to live like an hour or two outside of the city.
Right, but out there, unless you're seriously wealthy, you're not getting good internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a good place to live. Like, yeah, I do prefer living in a slightly more rural area, but still close enough that you can go in and get your groceries if you need to or whatever, right?
So they are stating that the latency would be between 25 and 35 milliseconds round trip, I believe.
That's pretty insane.
Yeah.
That's round trip?
Current satellite internet is 600 milliseconds or more.
Yeah, right. I mean, oftentimes you're looking at more than a second, which is obviously not viable for any kind of gaming. So, I mean, if it's around 30 milliseconds, like, that's really impressive. The question is, how latent, I've never measured this in specific, I probably could, but, I mean, I definitely could, but how latent is, say, like, connecting to Comcast servers, where they are switches and everything, where they redistribute everything, like, if that's in the realm of, say, 5 milliseconds, or let's say, for example, let's say 10 to be safe, let's say it's closer to 10, I don't know what it actually is, if that is, that extra 20 to like 50 overhead is pretty massive, considering 10 oftentimes can result in you getting 60 millisecond ping in game.
Yeah.
So having, instead 90 millisecond ping in game or 100 millisecond would kind of suck. But at the same time, anything under 100 milliseconds is playable. Playable, maybe not the best.
Yeah.
Ideally, you want below 30.
Yeah.
But
for reference on how they're planning on doing this with the low latencies, current satellite internet company HughesNet, their satellite network has an altitude of about 35,400
we're
kilometers.
dropping all our frames
Goodbye, frames.
again. We're
only dropping 10%.
okay. I mean, well, but it's climbing. We're dropping almost all. That's what the red's all about. We're dropping a massive amount of frames. Now we're streaming at 115 kilobit. It was a megabit. Now it's under a megabit.
We should just stop talking about SpaceX.
I guess so, man.
Well,
Oh, now it's 0. I think that's it. I think we're. Why is it like going down slowly? That's what I don't get.
at least Chris is paying respects.
Yeah, apparently. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
He can't hear you.
F. Come on, interwebs. Stop it. Oh my goodness. Why do we have to have issues on Wednesdays primarily? We have issues other days, but it's usually once for a second. Yeah, this is not. Oh.
Disconnected. Reconnecting.
Oh. We are in theory connected again. Oh my goodness. This is Wait, it still says we're streaming at 0. I don't know if we're actually connected appropriately.
Open it up.
Reconnection. Oh no, there we go. Now it's saying reconnection. Okay, now we're streaming. All right, we're good. Hi guys. Thank you for paying your respects. This is really frustrating. I am so sorry, everybody. So I wonder where you were at when it cut out. Well, I was monitoring it. So continue talking.
Long story short, SpaceX is putting their satellites at about 1,000 kilometers up, whereas most companies put theirs at like 35,000 kilometers up.
Nope. It's going between 0 and 3 megabit. Like, what are they doing to the servers? Like, is somebody just there at the switch at the switch patch panel? They're just like click. This is hilarious. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand why this.
No, they're doing it live. They're actually switching each packet.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It lights up a little dot with a packet. It's like click. Okay, because it's going anywhere. It's just going from 0 to like all the way up to like 4 megabit and then back down.
Okay, well I guess I'll just continue since you're just gonna upload this version.
I'm just gonna. We're not streaming at 11 megabit? Why did it just give me an 11 megabit stream mark? It's set to 7 megabit, but here we are streaming at 11 megabit now. But it still says we're dropping the frames. We're dropping all of our frames, but we're still streaming at 11 megabit. I do not understand what is happening right now. I mean, are we back live? I mean, there's me making fun of Comcast. Just doo-doo-doo-doo. Oh, man. F mom spaghetti. I appreciate it. Oh,
Pay your
man.
respects already.
Yeah. Please don't ever say that again. Oh, man. So, SpaceX, satellite internet, very, very cool. Don't cut us out again, Comcast.
Yeah, we're going to
please.
move on to the next topic.
Yeah, don't worry.
Verizon.
We're gonna stop crap talking Comcast. We're going to start crap talking Verizon.
Yeah.
Which is just as bad as Comcast. Wait, oops.
No, they're worse.
That's true. They're worse.
In some ways.
Yeah, I mean, they're... when you're at the very bottom, it's really hard to determine who's the worst.
I mean, Comcast did get voted worst.
That's true.
Yes. But about this bullshit Verizon news.
Yeah.
So Verizon, per a deal when they got their 700 megahertz frequency, I believe it was. Let me find the Android Police article again. Hang on.
Yeah, I believe it was 700 megahertz. That sounds right. Yeah. Yeah.
So they were essentially legally required to sell all of their phones unlocked. The specific clause says handsets essentially it's not allowed to sell. Configure handsets it provides to prohibit use of such handsets on other providers' networks.
Oh, we're at 3 megabit.
Okay.
1
I'm just
megabit.
gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, Verizon has decided that they are going to start locking their phones.
Yep. They just wanted to.
Yeah.
They were just like, okay.
So their reasoning could be valid if they weren't legally required to.
Exactly. That's where the issue comes into play.
Their reasoning is that phone theft is an issue. Not when your phone gets stolen, which is an issue, but it's not really something that this could possibly help with.
Yeah.
But they're running into there is an issue of theft from stores and almost more importantly, theft from trucks.
Right.
There was an issue recently of over 300 iPhone X's being stolen from a truck.
That was a big deal. That was a lot.
That's over $300,000 worth of product.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And even for a company that
For a
has
single
multi-billion dollars, like that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Like
Woo!
you have loss prevention built in, but it's not often you have $300,000 stolen.
Exactly. Yeah, that's amazing.
That might be a store's yearly loss prevention.
Yeah, exactly.
Or yearly loss.
Yeah.
So this is a problem. Now there are ways that they could deal with this that would be reasonable, and then there's ways that they could deal with it that they're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So,
I like that.
And the way that they're doing this is in 2 tiers. The initial thing, and I believe this starts immediately, is they're locking the phone, and when you activate it on their network, it unlocks. Meaning that there is no going into the store, buying it, and it's unlocked.
Right, okay.
Unless you're activating on Verizon.
Right, okay.
Eventually, and by eventually I mean spring, they're going to start doing what the other carriers normally do, of keeping it locked for a certain amount of time. They haven't said how much that's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have service with them for 30, 60, 90, however many days they pick.
Right.
Before you can unlock it.
And so this is technically illegal for Verizon in specific, right?
Yes, Verizon is the only company that this is illegal for, because this is the only company that had these terms when it did this Spectrum auction, because they're the only ones that won that auction.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then after that, the FCC did not implement those rules in newer auctions.
Right, okay. But they still apply here then. Yeah.
Yes, the point was that the spectrum that Verizon got at the time, there was not very much low-band spectrum available. So this gave them such a competitive advantage.
Which is part of why they're so huge today.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So they had to have something to inhibit that.
Yeah, there was no time restriction that Verizon had on this. This is the clause for this transaction. You complete this transaction, you agree to
Right,
these
so
terms.
unless you are not using this frequency anymore.
I don't think that matters.
Okay, you don't think that even matters?
No, I don't think there was a clause in there that stated if you stop using the frequency, it's done. It's you agreed to these terms.
Right, but then on the vice versa, I wonder if you agree
If you sell off the frequency, you might be able to get out of it.
Maybe so, because it makes me wonder if it's how it's formulated. If it's formulated in a way where it says because you bought this, you also have to, because then in that case, or not because you're using the spectrum.
I don't think it states that though.
Right. Okay. I would be interested in seeing what it actually says, because if they're saying hey, this is what you have to do because you're using this spectrum versus this is what you have to do, period. But even so, they're still using the spectrum, so it doesn't matter either way. I'm just curious in terms of exactly how they have this set up.
So it's strictly because they licensed it, they can't lock phones.
So
no licensee may disable them. So as long as they have the license for the spectrum.
Okay, right. So even if they're not using it, if they have the license, right, which they would have to give up the license to somebody or sell it to somebody.
Do.
You're right, exactly. They would know. No way. So they are permanently agreeing to this, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
But they control the FCC essentially, so it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Because the person in charge of the FCC is a Verizon shill. And by that I mean they worked for Verizon. They even joked about how the FCC is a captured regulatory body.
Uh-huh. It's
nice.
Pretty sad.
Yeah.
So anyway, this sucks. It's not good for consumers. It's not good for competition. It's a monopolistic practice, and it's gonna.
If they wanted to do this in a way that would be understandable, and I think would allow them, even in an FCC that would actually care,
to maybe negotiate it,
would be locking the phone until it is sold, but not requiring it to be activated on their network.
Right. That way, if it's stolen, then then it's not. Because
realistically,
the theft prevention. Yeah.
Realistically, if a phone gets stolen, they lock the IMEIs. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Like they know what IMEIs are on that truck. if that truck
Yeah.
is now missing 300 IMEIs,
They know
lock
which
them
ones.
anyway.
Yeah, they lock them. Yeah,
However, currently what could happen is you could, let's say you steal 300 iPhone X's. You
Right.
go into a pawn shop with 2 of them. Pawn shop checks if they're locked. This is before the news breaks. This is before Verizon locks them. You could sell them. You could have a few people selling them at different pawn shops.
Yeah.
So even
I
if
mean,
you're going
nobody's
that
going to
route-
go to the pawn shop and be like, I have 300 iPhones for sale.
Yeah, because
You
then
know?
they'd call the cops.
Exactly.
Unless you go to the right pawn shop.
I suppose, yeah.
But then
My
they
buddy,
would be checking the IMEIs anyway.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But yeah, so essentially there are ways you can steal these. You could even sell them via the websites that check IMEIs, but I believe they only check them upon listing.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
And
yeah,
so
yeah,
if they
yeah.
get marked as stolen,
Yeah.
after you list them, you're good.
Yeah. So this is basically just a ploy for them to keep people on their network and force people on their network.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
all it is.
justification for breaking the law.
Yeah, not basically, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. Don't use Huawei?
Yeah, so the U.S. government, and by that I mean like multiple different intelligence agencies.
Everybody, basically.
Yeah, the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA, the heads of them, are all saying that there is serious concern about Huawei and that people should not be using their phones.
Yes, they have the direct quote there, don't they?
Yeah, hang on. So it's actually 6 intelligence agencies, not just the 3 I listed,
Okay.
stating this. And this was also, so during the testimony from Christopher Wray, from the director of the FBI, he was stating that the government was deeply concerned about the risks of allowing any company or entity that is beholden to foreign governments that don't share our values to gain position of power inside our telecommunications networks.
Yep.
He added that this would provide, and this is also in quotes, the capacity to maliciously modify or steal information, and it provides the capacity to conduct undetected espionage.
Right.
Now that quote is mainly focused at the underlying tech.
Yes.
There is a very big concern by our government of Huawei using technology built into 5G,
Mm-hmm.
and then the government using the 5G network and having that information be stolen.
Right, which would not be okay.
Yeah.
So.
So with that being said, like, they also don't want people using their phones because, the U.S. government's obviously not going to have their spies use their phones.
Yeah, absolutely, but they still don't want citizens in the U.S. Like, the
Yes.
less people, the better, because potential data breaches happen.
Well, and it gives them a lot of information that could theoretically be useful for things like attacking.
Right.
If you have movement patterns and information, just a lot of information you wouldn't normally get, you can plan things better.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's just a general national security issue. Even if it's unlikely that they're going to attack, they have to plan for it because that's their job.
Yeah, exactly. And
So
it's just it's unfortunate in a lot of ways because Huawei makes good phones.
yeah,
It's unfortunate in my mind that this is happening,
Mhm.
but I think it's a necessary precaution.
yeah. Now, what I think is going to be really interesting, and I think more something that proves to consumers that this is an issue, is if we start to see other countries make the same push. Because as of right now, it's just a U.S. thing.
You're
Now,
right.
they may have information they haven't shared with other countries. However, our current government likes to accidentally share information with other countries that they shouldn't be sharing because we agreed not to. So I find that part highly unlikely.
Yeah, it's probably already been talked about.
Yeah.
So, in that event, don't buy Huawei phones,
I guess.
which is unfortunate because they're actually really good phones.
Let's not say that. Let's say the U.S. government doesn't want you to buy Huawei phones. Form your own opinion.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
Because we don't have access to the intelligence.
Yeah, we don't know for sure. That's a good point. And maybe we will at some point, but we don't right now. So take precaution.
Yes.
I guess. Yeah, and Huawei does make generally good phones, so do with that information what you will. Yeah. Okay, so what's this very last topic here? This is one that you wrote about. I didn't even hear about this. A potential CMOS replacement?
Yeah, So, oddly enough, the new competitor to CMOS, and keep in mind I'm specifying competitor, because it shouldn't be a competitor when I say this next sentence, is made by the guy who made CMOS. But he doesn't... I don't think he has, like, all of the rights to CMOS in the sense that, like, he makes all of the profit from it. So he's now building a new product, or he has designed a new product that is a better version, ultimately. But it will take a lot of time to catch on.
Right, because CMOS isn't like a company or organization.
No.
CMOS stands for, in case you guys are wondering, Complementary Metal Oxide Semiconductor.
Yeah. And also he made this while working at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, so it might have been something that became open source.
It's funny, just like, oh yeah, I came up with this replacement for CMOS while working at a Jet Propulsion
laboratory. No, he made
laboratory.
CMOS when working there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, CMOS
okay,
was invented by someone named Eric Fossum while working at JPL. And now he has a new thing called QIS, which is Quanta Image Sensor. Instead of pixels, QIS has what Fossum calls, and his colleagues call jots. Now, each jot can detect a single particle of light, a single photon.
Interesting. Okay, that's
What's
impressive.
What's crazy is that a regular light bulb produces, billions of photons per second.
Yeah.
So it can capture... Now, it captures very, very dim photons, because a single photon is dim.
Yes.
However, that means it's capturing a lot of information.
Right.
So, eventually... I mean, he's not expecting this to catch on for 10, 20 years, because that's how long it took CMOS to catch on.
Yeah, right.
But think, when we have the processing power 10, 20 years from now, and we have a camera that can detect individual photons, the type of image quality we could be getting, because it could process each individual photon.
Well, at that point, it's
literally just capturing
you can't get better than that.
Yeah.
You actually can't get better than that.
Yeah.
So, wow. That's amazing.
He envisions it will create a new approach to creating digital images. Fast electronics allow each jot to be sampled 1,000 times per second to build an image from the chip. The individual samples are added together, and using image processing software, a single image is produced. So it's really going to come down to image processing and how many more samples per second you can create.
Yeah, exactly. Because, image processing might be able to handle it for a photo slowly, but doing anything, 30 frames a second or something, no.
Yeah.
Now,
eventually it will be.
Well, right, and the question is then how do you display something like this, though? But you can't. There's nothing, because it's infinite resolution, essentially.
Yeah.
So, I mean, being able to get something that could display that.
It would just be...
I mean, okay, you could map a pixel to, the average of a specific area.
I think that's what it would end up being.
And that's what it would end up being, yeah. But...
Because it does say it adds together individual samples and then image processing to produce an image. So that's essentially what it is.
Yeah, okay.
However, though, they're saying it could be useful for things like... useful to astronomers for collecting data from light from distant objects, or military that's working in very low light environments.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Because especially once they can get the technology to be running this live.
Yeah.
Then you could have a live photon by photon camera,
which is kind of insane.
Which would be great for night vision.
Yes, that would be. That'd be great
literally
for a lot
capture,
of things. Yeah.
You could literally be viewing every piece of light.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is pretty big news. It's just not news that's going to affect us for quite a while.
Right.
But I would not be surprised to see this eventually be mainstream.
I wouldn't be surprised either. I mean, it takes a long time, but hey, it's a thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. That's really, really, really cool to see. I don't think we have...
as of right now, the sample sensor is the equivalent of 1 megapixel.
Which is pretty solid then. Yeah. Okay, very
cool. But this is what they get out of that 1 megapixel. Like, this is zooming in that much.
That is pretty amazing,
Yeah.
I gotta say. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, everybody, that's the end of WordCast episode number 50 there. Sorry for the stream going in and out. Sorry for being late. Sorry for the lag. Sorry for the everything. I apologize. But, again, thank you, everybody, for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as leave a comment down below of what you think of WordCast and what kind of stuff you want to see. We stream live at 8 p.m. Pacific time every Wednesday. You guys can come check us out, join the crowd, add to the conversation, throw in some comments and questions. We love to answer build comments and questions and stuff like that on here as well. We may eventually start formulating some segments where we specifically ask for user input, such as... looking at, your PC setups or something like that.
Mm.
I haven't really decided, but we've been kind of thinking about adding some stuff like that in. And obviously, don't forget to check out, again, the links in the description. One of those links goes to our subscription to WordCast so that you can get emails every time we are going to be uploading a video, or starting a live stream, I should say. Now, if you're interested in seeing this entire thing without interruption, because you're joining really late right now, I'd recommend waiting for the recorded version to go up. I have a recorded version that I will be posting likely tomorrow morning, and that one will have all the gaps filled in where the internet was having issues, and will just be overall higher quality. But yeah, everybody have a wonderful day. We are